Hey, I wanted to make a little comparison video. We're going to look at how Heyday stacks up against the other affordable or value brand options out there. These include basically Axis, Moomba, ATX, the Mastercraft NXT, and the Supreme. Um, we're going to look at three different aspects, including the price, the performance for both the wake and the wave for wakeboarding and surfing, and then about just the amenities like storage and just other little general notes that I have. Okay, first let's look at some prices for some of these different boats. First thing we're going to look at here is an Axis T220. Price up here is $131,500, but I think you could probably get it for 120 or so, negotiating with a dealer. I think there's maybe a $10,000, let's say 10%, so maybe just in the high teens. Looking at this boat, all these boats are going to be 22-foot boats that we're comparing. They're all pretty basic and have similar things. I mean, this boat doesn't even have gator step on the floor, doesn't have any gator step on the gunnels. Everything's pretty basic. The only thing that's different about the ATX is obviously you have the power wedge, so that's going to add some value to some people. I don't like the power wedge. I can discuss that later in the video. The next boat we're going to look at here is an ATX. It costs $125,000. Lowest I've really kind of seen around these is again 120. Maybe it's just like a little bit below that, but these boats are pretty dealer cost at that level, from what I know. Especially if they have this little walk-through transom area. That's for some reason that adds a lot of cost, but that's about what it is. They all have these power towers, I believe. I think they're all automatically actuated. You can't even get that as an option. It's just standard. So you can keep that in mind, what kind of value that brings for you. The other option is a Moomba Max. Now this has $100,000. Most of the Moombas are around 110 because people get certain options. There is a knockout package that you can get for $90,000. That's a pretty good value. And I think this is the knockout package, so it should be $90,000, but maybe they just have it priced a little higher. I think that might also be because there's a $10,000 dealer rebate as well. But the thing about the knockout packages is they don't have the racks on here, but they don't swivel. They have these racks that come on here. So if you're trailering, you're going to want to get different racks because these ones just will be sticking out at least 8 inches from the widest part, probably of the trailer, I would imagine. So I mean, if you have like a shore station or something, like you keep your boat on the lift, maybe that's not an issue. But driving on the highway, definitely don't want extra things sticking out. Everything else pretty darn standard. Almost all these boats, again, are going to be offering some kind of dedicated surf tab system. The Heyday, again, that it costs about $5,000 to upgrade, do a manual DIY, buy the Go Surf Assist tabs and put them on yourself. So again, you can account that in the value that brings for you. Looking at Mastercraft, yeah, most of these are $140,000 boats. Again, you can probably get some kind of $10,000, $15,000 rebate negotiation down right now, but still pretty expensive, especially for what you're getting. Just like the Moomba, the bimini doesn't come all the way out, only covers part of the front of the boat. Does have more detail for the way the styling of the hull. Some people like the styling more. This kind of big arched bump here, I'm not a huge fan of, but there is more detail. And then lastly, looking at the Supremes. Again, I think you can probably get an S220, the 22-foot version, for about $120,000. So all these boats are coming in fairly closely priced for their options. This one does have a silent stinger plate on it, has the stereo. So all the standard options that you're going to probably choose. But then finally, let's bring us here to the Heyday and see what prices are looking like. So, 23-foot surf is $70,000. I can see that it comes with the tower speakers. Comes with a Bimini. I can see. Comes with the screen. Again, you're not getting transom. You're not getting. This one doesn't have a surf pipe on it. This one, you have to put your own surf tabs on it. So both of those, like I said, $5,000 to $6,000 for both of those add-ons. But the price is extremely different. $70,000, and this is a 23-foot boat, so this is an even longer, bigger boat. WT2 for $70,000. $70,000 for another WT2, and some of these I've seen for even cheaper. These WT2, so these aren't even. Again, you could probably get even a slightly decrease on some of these. And then I know I've seen some. Here's an H20. I know I've seen these for even less than this. Again, I think you could probably, with the dealer, like I said, get it for slightly less for some of these H20s. I've seen even some H22s go for 80, 85. Okay, so next we're going to look at the wake and wave performance. Here we got a video of Dylan Miller riding his H22. You can see he's just standing right here at the bottom of the wave. The transition looks fairly steep. We can kind of just tab through it, so you get kind of an idea of the where he's standing in the transition and the trough. Now you compare this with Gunther Oka, who is riding the T220 here, and he actually even added, I believe, about another 700 or 800 pounds to his, and he's using his wedge. Just going through, you can see already, based on height with the knee comparatively to where the wake is, it's fairly comparable. I think that this looks even taller for Dylan Miller. The angle of the camera and everything is pretty similar. It's about as close a comparison you're going to find. This looks steeper to me, but still a very long transition. It's steep, but it's still got a lot of room for landing. Here, this looks much less steep, but a lot of room for landing. You tell me. They're both professional wakeboarders, but I've ridden a T220, and the boat's not that much different than my WT2, even performance-wise. And then if you want to look here at the wake surfing, again, we have Gunther Oka riding his T220. I'm going to try and show you a similar angle and everything. This is him basically at the bottom of his wave, so you can kind of see this is him totally at the bottom here. You can see it's kind of, he can clean it up, but this is, maybe just over knee height. Looking at Dylan Miller here. He's similar height. The wave face is a lot cleaner. He's standing at the bottom again, so it's a good comparison. I don't know why the wave on the T220 is so choppy. Maybe he just doesn't have as good of conditions. The water isn't it's pretty glassy out here. It doesn't look too bad here for him. Well, there's a little texture. But yeah, wave is comparable. Wakeboarding comparable. I think the H22 might even be better than this T220. Okay, I'm going to do a quick overview of the other boats and how they compare. The big factor here is, what are you getting for all that extra money, and is it really giving you a lot more performance? Looking here at the Supreme S220, Looks clean. Transition looks pretty decent. But again, is it significantly better than anything you're going to find on the Heyday? And then if we look at the Moomba, this is probably the best boat, I think, in the value class for wakeboarding. This is actually a very thick, very meaty wakeboard wake, soft, good transition shape, I think. So I would say that, yeah, the Moomba is going to be a step above any of the other boats as far as wakeboard wake. When it comes to wake surfing, the Moomba is notorious. You find videos everywhere where you need to add at least another 1,000 pounds, if not more. This is a Moomba Max. Looking at the NXT, I've ridden an NXT 24. Even the 24 fully ballasted. The wave is the real problem. It wakeboards again comparably, but the wave it's so flat and it just doesn't have much push. You have to ride. This is probably about as far back as you can possibly get. You have to be riding really close to the boat. It is really hard to recover on a 360 even. And then if you want to compare wake surfing for the ATX, I didn't bring up a comparison. It wake surfs fine. Again, it's pretty comparable. Wakeboarding, the ATX is notorious for being hard to set up for wakeboarding. The shape is terrible. It's very unclean. It's very hard to clean it up. I would say that the Max is definitely the best for wakeboarding. Wake surfing, I haven't wake surfed on a Supreme yet. Everyone says that they love the V-bottom hole, but there are people who suggest that it's more preference based. It gives you a further pocket that's further back. Some people complain that having too many options makes it harder to dial in. I have ridden the Moomba Max, and I can verify that the wakeboard wake is great and that the wake surf wave is just barely adequate. It gives me enough push, but it's, you can recover. It's better than the NXT, but for stock wake surfing, but you're going to want more weight for sure. Okay, just to wrap everything up, I'm going to go over a few little aspects of each boat that I think is worth noting. I'm going to start here with the axis. So the number one thing I like to mention about the axis is the wedge. They are calling this part of their ballast, their standard ballast. And the way that it creates ballast is by actually creating a lot of drag, like a parachute that it's dragging that's forcing the water up to push the back of the boat down. So I think that creates additional strain that's not comparable to just having an extra 1,500 or 2,000 pounds of ballast inside the boat. I also don't like the way that they do the ballast. Very little of the weight, I believe only about 1,100 pounds of all of the ballast, which is less than the Heyday, is subfloor ballast. That means that the rest of the ballast is all going to be in bags. Above the floor, it's going to be using up some of your storage space. So you're going to have a big bow bag that's about 400 pounds. So you're not going to really have any storage under the seat. You have batteries right there. You have two 500-pound bags at the transom on either side of the motor. So you can have some nets, but you don't have deep storage to put anything. Like if you're going to store boards in your Heyday, you have this big ski locker that you can store stuff in. And you can also store stuff underneath these folding seats. You have a lot of storage. So those are my two biggest complaints about the Axis. If we look at the ATX, I actually like the way that the ATX, I like the interior fit and finish. I like the way it drove. I didn't like the way the Axis drove actually compared to even using a suck gate. That's another thing. My biggest complaint with the ATX is that they're fairly high priced, in my opinion, and then also they just don't perform that well, wake or wave wise. The wave is fine, but it's not blowing me away. And then the wakeboard wake is really subpar. But other than that, I was pretty happy with the Axis. I like these little paddles that they have where you can up and down the cruise control speed. I think the Moomba also has that, which is a great little feature. The Moomba Max, again, if you're only going to wakeboard, this thing is the way to go. Or if you don't mind having tons of extra weight, it's got pretty good storage. It's also got the little cruise tabs that go up and down. It's got these same little buttons, just like a Heyday, which is great. Um, it's got more subfloor ballast than the Heyday. The other problem with the Moomba Max is that the tower, if I can get a picture of the tower here, only has a bimini that just covers the front portion. So you'd have to get a second bimini or some other kind of add-on that you could cover some of the back for sunny areas. Or if you live in Florida, this is just really subpar in my opinion. Again, if you get the knockout package, the racks are going to be an issue. But otherwise, I like the Moomba quite a lot. That would be the one I recommend the most. It also comes in has one of the cheapest options too, which is funny. It's the second cheapest option. Mastercraft, I think, is just the most overpriced option. It comes in as the most expensive option, and I think it performs really poorly. It might be better than the ATX as far as wakeboard wake, but probably wake surfing. The ATX is going to be better. The other thing about this one is, again, their bimini only folds here this way. Their tower folds backwards, and if you leave these in this position, they can hit the top of the boat. At least in prior years, that's something that's possible, and damage your boat or your racks. Again, I just don't think you're getting much that's that special or high end for all that additional money. There's a nice little stair step that comes down. The Supreme, I think, is a pretty good, well-rounded boat. My only real complaints on the Supreme is just, there's no walkthrough or anything. I like on the Heyday that you do have a proper walkthrough. Again, that's not a deal breaker. The bimini does cover most of the cockpit area, but it does kind of stick up the way it gets folded up. So, I don't know if that cause a problem for garage clearance if you have like a 9-foot tall garage door. And okay. And so finally, that brings us to the Heyday. Obviously, I mentioned a couple of things that I really like about the Heyday. The ski locker down here, I really like. I like that you have all of these controls and the smart gauge. You can actually use the boat even if this screen breaks. You can still 100% functionally use the entire boat. The freeboard is pretty decent. The H22 is higher. The layout is pretty reasonable. The big thing I hate about the Heyday is I actually prefer just the regular lockers on either side, so you have easier access to do maintenance and stuff on the engine. You do get a center walkthrough, which is great. I recommend putting a little foam step pad for $40 on top here so you can save your seats. I like these racks quite a bit from PTM. I think that they hold boards really well for being a simple bungee cord rack. I can easily put 2 wakeboards and 2 wake surfboards in this locker, which is great. And that's about it. There's a lot more little things to say, but those are the biggest differences. They're going to be notably different from the rest of the lineup. Hope this was